Welcome one and all to the Back of the Nest Preview Podcast. I'm your host Terence Ford, and along with Sam Hesketh and Albert Curley, we're going to look back to the 1-0 Carabao Cup defeat against Watford and ahead to our trip to the London Stadium where Palace face in-form West Ham. And if the producers have done their job, you should be hearing in the background right now the latest track, the first track, the out now single from Occupants, which is played bass player Billiam, who used to be producer on this podcast. Now, Sam Hesketh, welcome. You're a fan like me of this song.
I am. I also like it despite it having Billiam in it. So before he gets the big head, because I know he's going to be listening to it.
Any song that's called Disappointment Enthusiast is probably going to be right up your alley anyway.
Yeah, I actually never thought of that, but now you mention it, I feel like I need to be getting royalties because it's definitely about me.
Now, Albert, do you remember Billiam? He's the person that bought us things like this.
Get 10 times longer cooling with Colgate Plaques mouthwash. Now, buy one, get one free at Boots.
So, voiceover artist, bass player and producer. Is there anything he can't do?
I thought the bass was quite good in that Colgate jingle.
Remains to be seen whether he performed that. Probably not. But the main question is, if he's good at everything, can he score goals, Albert?
I'm willing to give it a try.
Right, this week I'm going to get into beer check straight off the bat. Now, I technically, a listener, and shout out to Carsten, thank you very much, sent us 3 beers in the post.
Sorry, us?
But they're all at my house.
Yeah.
And they're all like nice, as you can see here, it's a nice German Weiss beer. Andex. So
you can have mine.
It's been very, very, he's pointed out that I have to pour it properly. So glass at a 45-degree angle. Pouring it down the side here. It's got to have big head because it's German.
So, do you want to flake with that?
Yeah. And then, you got to give a big swish around to the yeast in the bottom to make sure you get all the yeast in there.
Did you swish around your Albert? Did you swish around your Budweiser to make sure the yeast?
I always swish around my Budweiser. When you're a connoisseur, listen, I'm surprised Terence hasn't mentioned it before. When you're a connoisseur like me, it's a given.
I could just picture you pouring a Budweiser into like one of those big old brandy glasses and having a sniff before you drink it.
Absolutely, and you have to do a little as well, just a little tap on top, just to really show you know what you're doing.
Oh, that is a can of Budweiser as well.
Yeah. You're an expert. Good.
Well, with your camera quality, mate, I'm just it's a bit hard sometimes. Hesketh, you drinking anything?
Pint of water. You know me.
Your face looks in shock there that someone had the audacity to talk to you, despite the fact we're recording a podcast.
I know. It's been a long day. It's been a very long day.
Right. Anyone going to be taking up the milk crate challenge?
I saw this yesterday, I think, for the first time. I'm not really down with it. I don't go on Twitter as much. I definitely don't have TikTok. I don't know if it's a TikTok thing. But I saw a couple of people doing it. For people who don't know, you basically just walk up stacked milk crates, right?
Yes.
I think that's what it is.
Effectively it, and then injure yourself severely.
Yeah, so you walk up sort of 75% of this milk crate sort of step thing, and then you just eat shit. And it's quite funny, providing it's not you doing it. So
Where'd you get the milk crates from? Even if I wanted to do this, how would I go about it?
I'm assuming it's an American thing.
Why?
Because that's where it started.
Do you still get milk crates over here? I don't know. I'm living the high life now. I get my milk from a supermarket, so I'm out the loop.
I've gone dairy free.
Expand.
That's why you had to go dairy free.
Yeah, couldn't find any milk crates.
Because of Brexit, there's no more milk. Is that it?
No, just it's not good for the asthma. I haven't gone dairy free, but I'm trying not to drink cow's milk. So let me just make that distinction. I'm trying to cut down on cow's milk, but I still love a bit of cheese.
the way you put the emphasis on milk was weird because you said, I'm not drinking cow's milk.
Yeah. My missus does
me-
that with bulgur wheat. She says bulgur wheat. She puts the emphasis on the wheat. And I'm like, well, as opposed to bulgur what? Like, surely you should be putting the emphasis on the bulgur because there's other types of wheat. This has gone well.
This is
bougie.
very...
It's all oat milk. It's all oat milk and bulgur. I mean, people didn't like it when we talked about shaving our balls. How the how the bulgur wheat and oat milk chat's going to go down, God only knows.
I think now might be a good time to announce that our sponsor is Whole Foods.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also just a massive diversion tactic because nobody wants to talk about the Watford game.
Well, before we get any further, I'm going to say his beer is fucking lovely. So, again, shout out to Carson. Thank you very much, good sir. I will make sure that Albert and Hesketh's beer goes to a good home in my stomach.
I was going to say, you were in my neck of the woods last night. You could have brought mine.
Yeah, it's not really, because I would have seen you before the game and wouldn't have been able to get it into the game.
I'd have just bloody downed it outside, mate.
Stacked it outside, stashed it outside somewhere.
It would have been the only beer within the vicinity of Vicarage Road away end.
I know I'd like to say it's the worst away day, but it's really not. That does put a downer on it a bit, but other than that, I don't mind Watford. It's kind of hit and miss. Like, no beer's shit. The walk from the station is very shit, particularly back as well after a 1-0 defeat. But the pubs are decent around there, and we always seem to sing quite loudly when we go there. So, I don't know. Pros and cons to it. Pros and cons. But back to the milk crate challenge. Good form of punishment if we don't score goals, Hesketh. Next game, get up those fucking milk crates, Wilf.
Well, I was going to say our injury table is, or injury room, not injury table, injury room's full enough as it is. I think if we make them walk up milk crates and not scoring, we'll be able to be fielding our under nines.
Do you reckon that's what Scott Guyett was doing? As it's good for your balance. It's good for your balance. If you can stay up there, stay up anywhere. Really strengthen the muscles around those ligaments.
Around your cheeks when the face smashes into the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not allowed to mention Scott Guyett because it turns out for some reason he's blocked Back of the Nest podcast Twitter page.
Why? How did that happen?
I don't know. It just got put in the chat. It got put in the chat like a few days ago.
I think it's like anything. We probably just blame DR, don't we?
I don't know. Or it's comments like Terence has just made about him doing crazy things like making people walk up milk crates.
Hang on a second. I never said anything about him somehow blagging his way to head of sports science at Palace. I've never said anything about that. And I don't have the password to Back of the Nest Twitter either. So it's nothing I could have said on there, that's for sure.
The perfect crime.
But good luck back. Good luck back in Australia, Scott. Let's give Ian both of my best.
Oh.
Anyway, let me crowbar in from milk crates to milkshakes, please. I really want to do that because McDonald's are out of milkshakes. Albert,
Hello.
they're not just out of milkshakes. What else are they out of? I can't believe this.
Well, I worked very late the other night because that's just the kind of guy I am, and I went for my maybe once every blue moon trip to McDonald's because it was convenient and KFC was shut. And pulled up to the drive-through. Hello, take your order. Yeah, chicken burger and a bottle of water, please. No, sorry, we haven't got any chicken or water. Which was quite problematic because that's what I wanted. No chicken, no water. So I just drove all the way through the drive-through, past the first window, past the second window, flipped the bird, and straight out the Brexit exit. Back home.
I thought there weren't any birds and that was the problem.
Hey, you're so good. But yeah, so that'll learn me.
But what I thought our milkshakes from McDonald's was because there's a brilliant BBC News piece on it where they've sent a guy to somewhere. Was it Scotland? I think it was Scotland.
It was Scotland.
Sounded like it, yeah.
Yeah, and this guy's asking people what they think about the milkshake shortage, and I just all the way through watching it, I just couldn't help but think that every time they said McDonald's, I was hearing Crystal Palace, and every time they were saying milkshake shortage, I was thinking goal shortage. And if you just listen to the whole clip all the way through, it's just people talking about being distraught about not scoring goals, but actually being milkshakes.
You have to sort it out for yourself.
Kevin Phillips tonight, however, looks like he might have a sort of top flick of a milkshake on his head. I don't know if you've seen this. He's in the studio for Arsenal West Brom tonight, which is on at the time of recording.
Did somebody mistake him for Nigel Farage and lob a milkshake at him?
No, well, you could do that as Selhurst, I guess. But yeah, Sam is holding up a
Watford
picture.
Fan. Is that Kevin Phillips?
It is, yeah.
He's like fucking Benjamin Button. Getting younger.
But he's actually, he was trending on Twitter, and it was a combination of he looks like an ice gem. So he has a wig. He has a wig glued to his head. I don't know what it is. Like, he was bald when he was with us, wasn't he? But it was shaved. Maybe it was the whole.
I don't think he's ever actually been bald. No, I don't know. I don't think he's ever been bald.
So you think that's legit hair?
I think that's legit. He's just. I think he might be hitting what he is. He was at the time he left us. He was considerably older than any other footballer. I think he might just be hitting midlife crisis.
Well, he must be 48.
Yeah, he's just trying some natty hairstyles as he moves into, proper middle age.
Yeah, before he just grows out full sideburns and wears like a hunter jacket or something.
He can do whatever he wants. He's Kevin Phillips.
It's true. His name was getting sung a bit at the Watford game last night. Just a point of Sutton tickets going on sale next week. You're umming and ahhing about going, aren't you, Hesketh?
I think as we talk, my tickets have been bought. So I will be there in the standing bit.
Have you been to Sutton before?
I have not. It's a new ground, which is quite rare these days because it's always the same team that come up. So I'm just going to the same grounds all the time. So much as this Papa John's trophy's sort of a bit of a nonsense, AFC Wimbledon and Sutton are new grounds. So I'm going.
When's this game?
Sutton's on Tuesday, I think.
Oh, not this. The Sutton one's next Tuesday. The Wimbledon one is beginning of October.
I think.
Papa John's trophy next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Does that mean if you win, you get 2 for 1?
It's Domino's, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure it's every pizza chain now, isn't it?
I don't even is 2 for 1 at Domino's even like the best deal that Domino's do anymore. Like, I feel like if you play around with their menu, you can better that.
I tell you what, the worst deal they do is £20 for one fucking pizza.
Yeah, but if they have a deal where if you spend over £20 on pizza, you get 50% off. So it should only be a tenner. You just got to select the thing.
Nobody should be spending over 20 quid on pizza.
Well, you won't. You only spend a tenner because you get 50% off if you spend over 20 quid.
Nah, it's ridiculous. About £2. About £2 to make those pizzas.
They did bring back double decadence base though.
You absolute scumbag.
And it's so heathen. I mean, Domino's itself is. I don't really class it as pizza. It's kind of.
Who is it that does the little sausage in the crust? Careful.
Was it Pizza Hut who did that?
It's not Jeff, my old scout leader. I can tell you that.
It was. I think it was Pizza Hut who first started with all the stuffed crust, wasn't it?
But we really don't want to talk about this Watford game, do we?
I'd rather talk about my bona fide paedophile scout leader than last night's game. That's how bad it was.
Oh,
he was, and he's dead. So what's he going to do about it?
This is true.
You?
Well, can't be any worse.
I can tell you what's potentially worse than going to watch the game against Watford yesterday, and that's having to listen to the game against Watford on BBC London radio, which is what us poor souls who didn't get to the game had to do, and it was rough.
Does James Scowcroft still do commentary for BBC London for Palace games?
No, it was some bloke whose name I don't know, and Paul Parker, and
Nick Goodwin. It would have been Nick Goodwin, wouldn't it?
Maybe Nick Goodwin. So
I like Nick Goodwin.
I don't know if it was Nick Goodwin, but let me give you my list of complaints.
I mean, it was because I saw his tweets that he was there,
okay,
so it must have been him.
Nick Goodwin.
Can I just say? Hesker said, "Let me give you my list of complaints." Have you typed this up in a draft of points of view?
Exactly. I was thinking it's like that TV show that's on for 5 minutes on like BBC at some point.
Why?
Dear Auntie Beeb, number one.
Terry Wogan's dead, by the way. You won't read it.
Shit, it's Anne Robinson now, isn't it?
No!
Anne Robinson wants to hear my complaints. Stop trying to censor me. We're going to do it. Number one, his name is not Mark Gurhey. Stop calling him Gurhey. That's annoying. Number two.
I think he was probably scared about being accused of being homophobic by saying gay.
Quite possibly. But it's better than Gurhey.
Well, it's the correct pronunciation.
And also his name, which is important. About 5 minutes in, they had what sounded like it was almost a proper row about whether Jeffrey Schlupp was born in Germany, because Paul Parker said he was, and he was. And I guess Nick Goodwin, whoever the other one, was like, is Germany in Ghana? Is Germany in Ghana? And he kept saying it over and over again for like 20 seconds. And then they just forgot it. We had a 5-minute conversation about Love Island. And then the best bit was when...
Is that in Ghana?
Well, his complaint there was my producer telling me that Love is the winner. And really, I think his producers should have been telling him, talk about the fucking football, mate. But the best bit was when...
Say what you really mean.
Oh, this is the last one. You text me, Terence, saying Anderson just played an absolutely unbelievable pass, blah, blah, blah. At that point, Paul Parker and this other bloke, Nick Goodwin, were talking about mosquitoes for 5 minutes. So I had no idea about any pass or miscontrol or shot or anything other than mosquitoes.
Well,
quite good at in malaria.
I was going to say they're pretty on trend with Palace at the moment for fucking sucking the life out of you.
Yeah. So they're my list of complaints. Kind regards.
Get it into points of view. Go on.
I will. I'm going to type it up verbatim from what I just said and send it in.
And if you're a Love Island fan, it would be you missed the perfect joke there by saying that I text you. You should have said I've got a text, but you missed that opportunity.
Alas.
And I know Mrs. Hesketh must be watching.
Yes, she definitely is. Whether she actually is, or it's just an excuse to get away from me at 9:00 every evening, I don't know. But
sits there with it on the TV, but actually set her headphones on, just listening to some sort of calming.
Exactly. Yeah, some meditation.
Right. So, I mean, Albert, you were at the game. I was at the game.
Yep.
I was trying to sort you out tickets in the week leading up to the game after you'd given me an earful for perhaps suggesting I might not go.
Yep.
And then you fucked me around like girls used to do when I was on dating apps.
I mean, not knowing what happened there, this is an educated guess, but something tells me it wasn't quite like that. Number one, it was a very busy day yesterday. Number two, when you're dealing with like trying to get a 7-year-old to get ready, leave the house to go and watch football, that can add like 45 minutes to anything. And then by the time we got there, it was like time to go and sit in the seats and watch the game was almost kicking off. So I had no pub time, I'm afraid, as much as I wanted to.
When you collected your tickets, was the old boy whose tickets weren't there to collect still like just kicking off on the side?
No, I didn't notice any disgruntled ticket collection man, but it was quite bemusing to. So I park the other side of the ground, probably where everyone comes up from the station. So I'm probably walking in with most Watford fans, and I was like, "Where's the away ticket collection to a steward?" And they're like, "See that MOT centre?" Like, yeah. They're like, "It's in there," and I was like, I wasn't wearing any colours or anything. I thought this can't be a wind up. This isn't like a pincer movement. I'm going to walk in there and get fucking duffed up by a load of Watford fans. And she said something like, "That's where your club has decided to set up their ticket collection table." And sure enough, you walked into the MOT centre, and yeah, there was a little trestle table with a load of tickets on it. I was a bit livid actually because I took my car for an MOT today. So to think that I could have got, I could have hit two birds with one stone yesterday. So if I'd have known that, I could have saved myself a few hours today. But it was a good system.
Yeah, well, it wasn't for everyone. There was a handful of people whose tickets just weren't there, and didn't get confirmation emails sent either, but could articulate very clearly that they had paid the money by showing their bank statements, which shows the money coming out. So the problems continue, but it doesn't look like it's just Palace. I think it's across the board at the moment. A lot of clubs are struggling with, are we moving to e-tickets? Are we not? Where are we? All that kind of business. But there you go. I mean, we're not going to talk about the game in any sort of depth. Hesketh, give me a short synopsis. What happened?
It sounded like we were all right. We were much better than Watford, but we just couldn't score.
Good enough for me. Albert, anything to add?
Not really. I'd like to add another edge to that, but it's kind of bang on. Like, first half, my son and his mate who came with us, they were pretty bored because all the action was down the other end. Obviously, which was the way that Palace were shooting, which sort of tells you everything in a very simplistic way of how the first half went. It was all down that end, apart from the odd non-real threatening break. And second half was a bit more open. It was a bit more end to end, again without any major sort of chances for either side, and it was won by a shitty goal with 5 minutes to go. Against the run of play would have been my summary. It's just, I don't think it was an awful performance. It's still early days.
I was joking around that everything's changed on the pitch. I think we made 550 passes, which means if we continue at that rate this season, we'll probably record triple the amount of passes we did last season once we get to the end of it. But I joke that all for the same outcome, which is zero goals, which is a big part of the problem under Roy. But on the pitch, did you get the impression that you could really see it sort of starting to take hold, the players understanding it a bit more, and it was just perhaps a little bit of poor execution in key parts that led to its downfall? Yeah,
I think you can see what they're trying to do, and it works. And I mean, I'll get in there first. The amount of passes that like Anderson was playing in general, and then the amount of quality passes that Anderson was playing was really impressive to see. And you can see what they're doing, but it's very, I was sort of right at the end towards the side of the stand, so I was almost down the left-hand touch line as we're looking down the pitch. Like Wilf and Joel Ward were both extremely like tight to the touch line, and they're looking for those players to try and obviously use Wilf, who's still our plan A for everything, and try and exploit the space that way. But I think where it kind of left us short is that when you've got two players, ultimately a wing back, and it was Joel Ward, who's not a fantastic wing back. You've got two players out there extremely wide, and it kind of left us short, in terms of if they did beat the Watford fullback and try and get the ball into the box, that we're just light on numbers, in people getting into the box. So all the build up play is great, and it works, and they look comfortable. The centre halves are fantastic, in my opinion. But yeah, it's kind of, Wilf so out wide, or was last night. He's so wide that when he gets the ball, he's got a lot of work to do before he gets anywhere near the box to either take another man on and get into the box, or to put a quality ball in for bodies trying to get on the end of it. And then there just wasn't, either of those things didn't really happen.
Yeah. I think there's a big plan to try and hit quick switches and get 2-on-1 against fullbacks, so you can create an overlap and get the midfielders running in and perhaps the other guy in from the flank as well. But they are both very much hugging the sidelines in that sense, in terms of Ayew and Zaha last night. Very couldn't be further away in terms of the width of the field. But I think it's still. I'm not worried. I think they've still got to learn this style. There's a lot of information going in. I think Vieira's talked about having extra training sessions, kept them in the changing room for an hour longer than they normally do last night. So, yeah, I'm not worried. I think we've still got two of our, in Eze, we know we've got one of our very best players to come back.
Yeah, crying out for Eze.
Yeah, at least say the same thing again. I mean, Ayew now with one that takes him up to 1 goal in 45 matches now for Jordan Ayew. So, yeah, exactly that sort of facial point there, Albert, is it's crazy to think, really. But his goal last season,
1 goal in 45, really?
Yeah, Leeds.
I would never have said that.
Leeds last season in the 5-1 is that 1 goal. And the goal before that was Bournemouth away, Project's Restart.
Oh, remember those glory days when we looked like well beaters in that first game?
Wasn't that was 4 wins in a row, wasn't it? We were at that point, we were like, we could go up towards Europe here. And then we seven losses, 1 draw in the remaining 8 games. 7 games, 8 games, whatever it was. But yeah, so, and I can't say I've seen Elise play. I think I watched him for 45 minutes in 1 game once, and I've seen highlights packaged on YouTube, but it's hard to judge on YouTube sometimes, but he looks the business, to be fair. So if he can come and have a similar sort of impact to Eze, then there's a lot to come. And there's still 5 days of this transfer window to go, which we'll get into in a little bit to see who we think we might sign. Shouldn't not talk about Mateta's miss. Now, I know, Hesketh, I know you would have seen a video clip of this. It's been doing the rounds. When you're as tall as he is and as physically imposing as he is, and it's stood up like that, one yard out from goal, and the defender can't even jump in front of him, you shouldn't be missing from there. No,
you shouldn't. And listening to the commentary, they were sort of saying the defender did all right to get in the way or whatever. So it's hard to sort of picture it. But when you see the video, it's like you can't not score that, and I really, really want Mateta to be good. And I still don't think he's like the worst player I've ever seen, which is what I'm seeing quite a lot of people say. But there's not really much excuse for being, a yard out, 2 yards out, being 6'3" or whatever he is, and not heading the ball in. It was, that pretty rough to watch.
So we're now, by the time the FA Cup comes around, it will be almost 3 years since we last scored a cup goal, which was obviously Batshuayi against Watford in the FA Cup quarter-final, a few seasons back. Did you see the stat, Albert, that Man City have scored 108 goals in cup competition since we last scored one?
Yeah. Is that including Champions League, though?
That does include Champions League.
Well, there you go. We didn't play that. Didn't play that, did we?
Take out Champions League. It's probably still about 82 or something.
Well, you're splitting hairs now. Come on. Let's compare apples to apples, yeah?
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to leave it out. There's still a lot of Wilfried Zaha slander going around. I thought he was much better last night. He got so much of the ball and attempted so many dribbles. It was only he was obviously going to get tackled at points, and Watford released the whole video sort of montage of Zaha getting tackled throughout the night, but seeming to miss out all the times that he absolutely rinsed our fullbacks and run away from them. Or the probably 8 or 9 times he was fouled in the game was also seemingly missed off of there. TikTok post, I think it was. So
They're absolutely obsessed, aren't they?
they are absolutely obsessed. But that's what I want to touch on now. I put a poll out on Twitter before we started recording tonight to talk about this e-rivalries. Now, for people who may not know what that is, I'm talking about where a sort of rivalry has been generated between us and Watford on social media by certain prominent social media accounts. Good or bad was what I asked. Good or bad or don't care. I'm surprised 74% just don't give a shit, which wasn't quite what I was expecting from the poll as an answer, to be honest. 20% think it's bad, 6% is good. But the reason why I asked the question is because, is this the future? Is this how rivalries are created as more and more goes online? Is this part of it, or is there still a massive distance between people who are on social media versus people who actually go to games, Hesketh?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's obviously a lot more prevalent than it used to be. I must admit that I tend not to go on Twitter really after a Palace game, especially when we lose, because you just see some absolute bullshit put on there.
Well, when we lose, we're getting relegated. When we win, we're going Europe.
Yeah.
And Twitter only deals in absolutes.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly.
Absolute cunt.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'll try and rein it in.
So, yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that, it only takes one or two comments from fans of one team or another to make it all sort of spiral into something a lot bigger. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's more of that. Periodically I overlook at a tweet that the official Palace account put out, and, you get someone who sports like Tottenham saying, small club. And it's like, fucking, I know I'm a nerd. I've spent all evening bagging my comics, right? So I'm definitely a nerd, but fucking...
Is that a euphemism? Is that a euphemism?
I wish it was.
No wonder Vanessa wants to get away from him if he keeps bagging his comics around her.
I'm not getting involved in this conversation. It's not worth my life.
Yeah, so someone did ask, why didn't I add a fourth option of cringe to the rivalry? So I think it's definitely still a long way to go. But yeah, I think it's what the kids are into these days, right? Football Twitter is a thing, and that's what exists. And TikTok's a thing. Apparently, I can't get on board with it. It's mental. I've tried. I have younger siblings. I've really tried to get on board with it, but no, not for me. I'm getting old, and I don't want to be old. If rivalries are the future, then I don't want to be old and be like, oh, back in my day, we used to get into rivalries by having a dust up outside the pub at away games. So. But yeah, so good luck to you if that's what you're into, but not for me, I don't think. West Ham, that's who we've got next. Ideal game, really. What you want, a team in form who seems to just be slaying all comers. Hesketh, we are going to the game.
Yes, we are.
Do you go with any sort of hope?
I think you know the answer. No, I don't. We were talking beforehand that, even just a goal would be fun. If we're 4-0 down and we score the consolation in injury time, I'd probably still celebrate that quite hard, to be honest. So I go with no expectation of anything good, but my hope is that regardless of how many we let in, we score one.
Right. Look, the closest station to the away game is Pudding Mill Lane, and I don't think we'd score against them at the moment. So
no, very true.
West Ham looking good. I mean, Albert, it's fair to say that looks like Moisey might have got over his Man United stint and has rediscovered his mojo.
He did tell us he was a winner. He also threatened to slap around a female journalist, so you can't really take too much of what he says seriously. But yeah, listen, they're a good side. Mikel Antonio is just like every week he's like the Renaissance man. Like you think back to when he like absolutely gifted us that goal. How long ago was that at Selhurst when he just played that awful pass and we went up and Zaha put one past Joe Hart. Since then he just seems to have gone from strength to strength, and I really like him as a player. And despite all the money that West Ham blow on Haller and people like that, it always seems to be Mikel Antonio that's like dragging them up the league. So it's not going to be an easy game. It's not a game that I can say I'm looking forward to. Quite like that bloke who had his birthday ruined when Jordan and I scored that goal. I might just have to refresh my memory with watching that on Saturday evening. But yeah, listen, they're doing way better than anybody thought. Probably better than West Ham fans thought. Actually, that's not true because they won the World Cup once. Is this me stoking an rivalry? Sorry, have I turned us into massive hypocrites?
Mate, pod rivalry? I don't know. Who knows?
Rivalry. Bag my comics. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? It's going to be, it's a game against West Ham. Jordan Ayew worldy incoming. That's all I know. But it might be at the end of the 4-1 that Hesketh was talking about.
Yeah. With any goal, right? We just would like to score a goal. In my brain as well, I was thinking that Benteke has a decent record against them, but then I looked it up and he just doesn't. He's got like 3 goals in 15 matches against them. And
a red card.
And a red card. A very harsh red card.
Yeah, that was dog shit.
It was. And then a sort of 1 in 44 striker scored a bicycle kick out of fucking nowhere, which was pretty much typical of everything that season. But I mean, I think we were the only team for a while after that took a point from the London Stadium. To be fair, they went on the crazy run after that they did last season. But sort of sums up in terms of fantasy football. I've got every West Ham. I've got Jared Bowen, which is the only West Ham player that hasn't done fuck all. But you'll all be pleased to know, I think a lot of Palace fans talking about this. I've gone heavy on West Ham players this week in my fantasy team to try and jinx them, because everyone I put in my fantasy team flops all the time. So Ben Rama's in, Antonio's in. So you can thank me on the pod next week. Or is it international break next week? Really should have looked that up. We're not quite at that point yet, are we?
Let's not pretend we ever look at the fixtures.
Oh yeah, we are. It's international break, so we are. But we'll get into that later when we need to realise we haven't researched that later, not right now.
I'll be hanging out the washing during international break.
Gyro Riedewald played pre-season predominantly. Had a brilliant game against Watford in the pre-season friendly where we beat them 3-1. Had a poor game against Chelsea, admittedly, in the opener. But does he get back in for Kouyaté, Albert, particularly on the back of his Brentford performance and his performance last night? Kouyaté's probably got the answer.
Well, listen, I think only for the fact that Kouyaté's played as many minutes as he has, I would swap him out for Riedewald. And then if you're going to talk about based on performances, I would also swap him out. So it's a yes for me. But it's not necessarily because I think Kouyaté's like awful or anything like that. But I think Riedewald offers us just a little bit more. I think that the problem we've got at the moment is, we all right, we're not ripping any trees up, but we look fairly solid at the back. Chelsea aside, Chelsea are a great team. It was a bad day at the office. I think, the Brentford game, the game last night, those 2 centre-halves are decent, and we don't look flimsy, at the back at all. The problem we've got, and it's different methodology, but same end result as the Hodgson era, it's chance creation. And it's what happens in that final third. And is Gyro Riedewald more capable of creating a chance for whoever's up front or out wide? The answer there is yes. So I think you have to put him in, if only for that reason.
Yeah, totally agree. I think Kouyaté there was a few times last night he was picking the ball up off the centre-backs or the goalkeeper, and he seems like he's scared to turn and face the play, even though everyone seems to be screaming at him that he's got yards of space behind him. I think he's in that sort of role, playing in that role. His pass accuracy is usually between sort of 70 and 75%. It cannot be there when you're playing that sort of role. As much as maligned as Luca is, he's got a much better passing rate than that. Luca can sit around the 85%, particularly when he's just being asked to play short passes and so on. So even Luca in that position there. But Gyro, as we've talked about in the past, Gyro can get up into the 90s with his pass percentage accuracy, so it just makes more sense. But Hesketh, do we lose a bit of physicality in there? Is that the problem? And is that maybe what Vieira's worrying about?
Maybe, but I think if you're playing with Gallagher and Jimmy, whilst they're not obviously as big a presence as Czech, they get stuck in, they get in the in the faces of the opposition. So I wouldn't really worry about that as much. And I like Czech, but his performance against Brentford was poor. And I think whilst Gyro wasn't great against Chelsea,
it was Chelsea.
And it was Chelsea. He's opposite players like Jorginho. It's not very easy to be a dominant player. I think the only thing I'd say with him from that Chelsea performance is he needs to come closer to the defence to pick up the ball, or the goalie when we're passing it around a bit. But I think if we have a three of Jimmy, Gallagher and Gyro, it'd be good to see how that works, because I think at the moment that's probably our strongest three.
A friend of mine is a commentator for Sky Sports in Germany, and he commentated on our game against Brentford on the weekend. And I had a call with him on the Friday before the game where he just said he just wanted to sort of know how the fans are feeling about Palace. I ended up speaking to him for an hour. And I said that, pointed out to him, it was like Gyro's the one in pre-season who Vieira seems to be putting it all on, going picking the ball up from the centre-backs and stuff like that. And he said, what, like Jorginho? I was like, well, not quite. Not quite, and then he didn't even play anyway, so shows why I know. Wasted his time. Right, yeah. Look, I think we know it's going to be a tough afternoon, but it's kind of particularly in the Premier League years, these games where you're going in against not the big teams, and we're expecting to lose against the inform. It's kind of the games where we've caused the upsets in recent years. Few times against Leicester spring to mind, a couple of times against West Ham as well. So, prediction, Albert, can we upset the odds on this occasion?
I'm going to let the dice do it again this week, but I'm going to do it a different way. 2. West Ham are going to score 2. It's going to be a 2-2.
2-2. Okay.
2-2.
Go, Hesketh.
Well, I've been fairly close at both my predictions so far. I said 3-1 against Chelsea, and I said 1-0 against Brentford. So, well, yeah, but I mean, what did you say last week?
I don't like you.
I think you went 2-2, didn't you?
Yeah. So you're doing the just keep saying the same thing and hope for the best. That doesn't count.
No, the dice has spoken. I'm using Boggle basically to predict or yards.
Well, I don't know if I can beat Boggle, but let's say 3-1 to West Ham.
I just don't think we'll concede that many goals. I think with Gay and Anderson, I think we're looking all right. 1-0 West Ham. That's what I'll go for.
I don't think we'll concede that many, but we're going to lose.
But we're definitely not scoring.
All right. So I'm conscious I don't really want to run super long, as we seem to have been doing this season. We're waffling on too much. Quickly touch on Balassi signed for Rizerspoor. So good luck to Yannick Balassi going out to Turkey. Sorloth has gone to Sociedad on loan. So his Leipzig experiment lasted one season. Just unbelievable, really, that we got money for him. Thinking about it.
Have we got a buyback clause?
No, I don't think he would ever want to see Selhurst Park ever again, to be honest, unless he was playing for the opposition and scoring goals. And then transfer window is closing within the next 5 days or whatever. Albert, if we only can sign 2, what positions do you go for? Hesketh, same to you.
Striker and another wide player.
And for you, Hesketh?
Yeah, probably the same. I guess maybe another central midfielder. But if we get in a wing and a striker, I won't be upset.
Yeah, I kind of like a striker and a full, but a left back would probably be what I'd lean towards. But I would like a central midfielder as well. And I think Anguissa from Fulham would be nice. I think he can do both. I think he could do both. I think he's played left wing back before. I might be wrong there, but I seem to remember him playing there, and he really impressed me. Every time I watched Fulham last year, I thought he looks really good, really dynamic in midfield, gets box to box, has physicality, seems to have all the things that Patrick Vieira want, and we've been linked with him, so hopefully that would come about. And I think we need a different option up front. I really, Mateta, I'm not with. I don't want to see anyone foul or anything like that, but with each start that goes by, which passes him by, it just seems to be like it's not going to happen for him. So, even if it is, it's kind of like he's a very similar option to Benteke, even though he likes to think he's AJ getting in behind and running off the shoulder defenders. He's really not that guy. So I think we just need a different option up there. So hopefully that will come in the next few days, and it's probably not going to be in time for West Ham, but in time for the international break, get embedded in and hopefully turn things around. Well, I mean, look, I would just say that if you're already feeling a bit squeaky bum about Vieira, and I know there's definitely already people talking about it's time for him to go already and things like that. I would say buckle in, because our fixtures are fucking hard over the next few weeks. Spurs are not shit as everyone thought they might be. We've got to go to Liverpool, and let's face it, our hoodoo over Liverpool is gone. Doesn't happen anymore. End of September, obviously, we play Brighton, and that'll be the game where we sort of hope that we could get something out of that. But really, really tough set of fixtures. So just stick with it. Hold your nerve, as I said on Twitter after the game last night. Hold your nerve. Good things are coming. I can certainly see within the team that it's starting to come together. The centre backs are really fucking good, and if they stay fit, I think we'll always be in games, because we're not going to. I don't think we're going to concede loads of goals, as I've already said. So just be patient, woosa. Just take some deep breaths. Let's get through to the end of September, beginning of October. Let's start to get Eze and Elise back, and then let's take stock of where we are at Christmas. There's no point us all crying about Roy Hodgson for a couple of years in a row, and then ended up, trying to play bringing in a manager who wants to play progressive football, who brings in youngsters and all of that. There's no point jumping after 3 games as it is now. This is the 4th time after 2 league games we've not scored and lost both games, or we haven't even lost both games. We've got a draw here. There's 4 times we've had no points after 2 games since we've come to the Premier League. 4 times we haven't scored a goal after 2 games of coming up to Premier League. Fuck it, we had one season we didn't score in 7.5 games. So there's been, you can be bottom around Christmas time and still stay up now. The Premier League's not what it used to be in that sort of sense. So relax, chill out, and everything's going to be all right, Hesketh. I'm looking at you. But yeah, so we won't be back next week because, as we've established, it's international break, but we will be back the week after, usual times, when we will be playing against, it was Tottenham at home. So who knows? We've got 1-1 draws against them in the last 2 games at home. So you never know. Thank you, Albert. Thank you, Hesketh, as always, for joining. Thanks to everyone for listening. Look out for the match report this Sunday, where Hambo will be taking you through whatever happens at the London Stadium. Look out for the Palace Focus on YouTube with DR and the boys. And until next time, up the Palace.